Trendlines are one of the most effective and powerful tools you can add to your technical analysis to improve your accuracy and your efficiency as a trader. And that's what we're going to cover in this video.
Hey YouTube, Christopher Guzman here, head trader and CEO at Kickstart Trading. In this video, like I said, we're going to talk about trend lines. Now, before we dive into the charts, I want to talk about two things. First of all, the purpose of a trend line, right? So what's the purpose of the trend line? And second of all, what's the goal of the trend line? So what do I mean when I say purpose? Well, just as the name implies, when we're drawing a trend line, the purpose is so that it helps us to identify the trend, right? Are we in an uptrend where the market's making higher highs and higher lows, or are we in a downtrend where the market's making lower highs and lower lows, right? Equally as important, it helps us to identify when the trend is over, right? In other words, when a reversal is taking place. And this can be in the form of a short-term reversal. This can be in the form of a major King's Crown reversal pattern, which of course is an advanced pattern. And so, trend lines are very important. As well, they also show us areas of support and resistance, hidden areas of support and resistance. Okay, I'm going to show you what I mean, and we're going to turn to the charts. But before I do, just thought it was very important to mention the purpose and the goal. By the way, folks, before we go any further, if you like the content you're seeing, go ahead and give that like button a smash for us. And if you want regular updates with invaluable content, tips, tricks, and advice from a professional trader who's been doing this for a long time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification icon to never miss a video. Okay? Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the charts. So go ahead and open up a chart, any chart. And the very first thing I want you to do is to compress the chart, okay? And you want to compress it as much as it'll go. Now, you can do this just by simply, scrolling in on your cogwheel on a mouse. If you don't have a mouse, like an actual, separate computer mouse, and you're on a laptop and you're just using a trackpad, I highly recommend investing in a mouse, a separate mouse, okay? You don't have to, obviously. You do what you want to do. You're all grown people. But my advice to you would be, if you can, get your hands on a mouse, okay? It will make your life much easier. And so using the mouse, using the scroll wheel, just go ahead and compress the chart as much as you possibly can. And then I want you to look about, okay? And I want you to find the highest price point that you can see and the lowest price point that you can see of the prevailing trend, of the most recent prevailing trend, okay? Now, in this particular case, I see this high right here as a pretty good place to start in terms of my highest price point, okay? Now, if I just compress this a bit further, I'll show you what I mean. So you can see, prior to that high point there, we were very sideways. Market was kind of making higher highs, higher lows. And then, hit that point. It ended up still going sideways for a little bit, okay? And we're going to talk about counter trend lines a little bit in here as well, although I'll do a separate video on counter trend lines because I think it's worth doing. But you can see, though, from this point, generally speaking, the market started moving in a direction, right? It picked a direction and stuck with it. And the direction, of course, was down. Market was making lower highs and lower lows, right? Lower highs and lower lows. Okay, so two things. Number one, again, the purpose is to help us to identify the trend. Number two, the goal when actually physically drawing the trend lines, is to connect all of the major highs, okay, that come before the lowest low in a downtrend. Obviously, if we're in an uptrend, the opposite is true, right? So in an uptrend, we want to connect all of the major lows that come before the highest high. Now, if I can just talk to you about, in theory for a second here, and just show you this in theory, right? In an uptrend, market's making higher highs and higher lows, right? Higher highs, higher lows. Okay. And so the goal when we're drawing our trend lines is to connect all of the major lows that come before the highest high. Now in this example, right, this would be my highest point right here. And so my goal is to connect all of the major lows. Now, key emphasis there on major lows that come before that highest high. In a downtrend, the opposite is true, right? And so in a downtrend, I want to connect all of the highs that come before the lowest low. Because obviously in a downtrend, instead of making higher highs and higher lows, the market is now making lower highs and lower lows, right? And so, again, the goal here would be to connect all the major highs that come before that lowest low point, okay? And so in practice, when I'm actually drawing my trend lines, right, what this actually translates into is it looks something like this. So I start from, in an uptrend, I start from the lowest point in the trend, right? And then what I want to do is I want to swing my trend line all the way out as far as I can possibly take it to the edge of the screen, okay? And then I want to go ahead and move this on up, swing this on up just until, all right, and this is crucially important, just until the market makes contact with my trend line. And I messed that up, so I'm going to do that again, okay? So I'm going to go from the lowest low, stretch it all the way out to the edge of the screen as far as I can go, and then swing this up, and I'm going to keep on going just until the trend line makes contact with those major lows that I'm trying to connect, okay? Now, ideally, I want to connect all of the major lows before that highest high, okay? And, so there are different types of trend lines, right? We have our outermost, our innermost, our secondary, our tertiary, right? We have all kinds of trend lines. We have counter trend lines. And so, we're only just kind of scratching the surface here, but the principle is the same, pretty much across the board as it relates to trend lines, okay? And so I'm quite happy with this one. We swung this up just until the market made contact. But obviously, like I say, the goal ideally is to connect all of the major lows, and these major lows are still not connected before that highest high. And so I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process from the low, which was last connected, okay, from the major low, which was last connected. If there's no room, and you'll see that sometimes in some situations where, there's no room to start exactly at that point, just go ahead and grab the next major low that you can see, okay? And again, repeat the process. So grab the low, drag the trend line all the way out to the very edge of the screen, and then swing this on up just until the market touches just until the trend line, should I say, touches that next major low. If it hasn't touched all of the major lows that are still not connected, then we need another trend line. And so I'm going to go from the next low. Okay, I'm going to go from, to connect the next low, I'm going to go from the low that was just connected, and again, repeat the process. Drag this all the way out to the edge of the screen, swing it on up just until we have made contact, okay? Now, in a downtrend, it's the same exact concept, we're just going the other way. So start from the highest high, swing the trend line all the way out to the edge of the screen, and then go ahead and swing it on down just until those major highs are connected before that lowest low. Okay, and then again, if there are any additional highs that still need connecting, go ahead and throw an additional trend line in place there. Okay, so that's the theory side of it. Now I want to show you this in practice. So let me go ahead and clear this off. And the first thing I've done, like I say, I've identified, I've compressed the chart so I can identify, the overall trend, right? And the crucial first step to identifying the overall trend is I want to identify my lowest point, right? My lowest point, which seems to be this one right here, and my highest point. And so I'm going to go back all the way. I had already marked it off previously, but I'll go ahead and mark it off again here because I got rid of it. So right here, there's my highest point. Okay, so there's my highest point. There is my lowest point. Now, the goal, right, when drawing the trend line, remember the goal is to connect all of the major highs, right, that come before that lowest low. Now I see a couple of candidates for, what could potentially serve as those major highs I'm referring to, and I'm highlighting them for you just so you can kind of get used to seeing this, before you even put the trend lines into play, right? And so these are the ones that I can see, right? And so let's see how accurate all of those were, because now we're going to actually put the trend line in place. So usually I like to keep my trend lines like a nice bright dark blue color, like this preset blue here. But obviously, color doesn't really matter. It's a matter of preference. Okay, choose whatever color you want. I just like the blue, and I like to keep it consistent. Okay, now what did I do here? So I'm going to do this first without the magnet tool on, and then I'm going to throw the magnet tool on and show you how I did it. Okay, so very first thing, I started with the magnet tool so that I could snap it specifically to that high, okay? Because that's how using the magnet tool is how I'm going to get the most accurate picture. And so I go ahead and grab the trend line and I spread it out all the way to the very edge of the screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and swing it on down just until I've made contact with my major highs, you see? Okay, I've made contact right here. Now, once I've made contact here, a little trick here to speed things up is I can go ahead and if I click on the trend line, I'll get this settings bar, this quick settings bar, and I can go ahead and click on this icon here. It says right end. Click on that and then click on extend, okay? And that will extend it all the way to the edge of the screen. And that shows me that that is in fact a valid trend line, okay? You can see not only valid, but also not broken because, it's connecting this high and it's going all the way, down to here before this lowest low. Now, obviously, there are still some major highs that need to be connected. So my next starting point for the next trend line is going to be the high that was just connected previously, okay? So this high that we just connected previously. Again, I use the magnet tool just to grab it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this trend line all the way to the edge of the screen and then swing it on down just until I'm making contact with some more major highs that need to be connected. Now, I want to zoom out here, okay, because I want to see, and I want to extend this, and I want to see if this is accurate. And I'm going to show you the difference, okay? And as you can see, no, it's not. And this is why I didn't go off of this as a major high, right? Because I recognize this one as a major high as well as this one. Now, this is not a valid trend line because, all right, this is very important. It's not a valid trend line because the candles, the highs, should I say, the highs that came before that lowest low have penetrated through the trend line, okay? And a penetration through the trend line is not acceptable. That means it's an invalid trend line. If the penetration of the trend line happens after the lowest low is, all the major highs before that lowest low is hit are connected, okay? If it happens after that lowest low, then it's still a valid trend line. It's just broken. But if it happens beforehand, it's an invalid trend line. Okay. Inside of the Ultimate Forex Trading course, I teach you some additional tips and tricks. But just in principle, that's what you need to know. Okay. So if the candles are penetrating before the goal is complete, remember the goal is to connect all of the major highs before the lowest low in a downtrend, all of the major lows before the highest high in an uptrend. So if that goal is incomplete and the candles are penetrating through, it's an invalid trend line. If the penetration of the trend line happens after the goal is complete, then it's still valid. It's just broken. Okay. So back to the chart. So what I want to do is I want to grab this trend line. Okay. And again, I'm going to stretch it all the way to the edge of the screen, and then I'm going to swing it on down until the market makes contact. And as you can see, this major high, at least for now, appears to have been spot on. But is it actually spot on? Let's find out. Let's go to that major low. Okay. And as you can see, actually, no, it's not. No, it's not. Now, why is it not? Well, this is my major low, and the candles are penetrating through the trend line, and the penetration is happening prior to that lowest low. Okay, the penetration is happening, and this is the penetration I'm talking about. This one, and of course this one here. The penetration has happened before the lowest low, which is right here. Okay. And again, remember, I can't stress this enough. If it penetrates before the goal is complete, it's not a valid trend line. Okay? Don't forget. Rewind the video. Don't forget it. All right? So let's go ahead and adjust this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my trend line again. Come back here, wherever you are. Okay? And I've got to move it again. So again, to the edge of the screen. And I'm just going to keep swinging it down until all of those major highs are connected. And in this case, it looks as though I was slightly off. I was slightly miscalculated where the most recent major high would be. It was actually this one, not this one. I was looking at this one. It was actually this one. Okay. So not bad. Not bad. At one point or another, these would have been valid major highs, and the trend line would have been following that. But obviously, as the market came down and made this new lower low, the trend changed. Okay, and so now that all of the major highs that come before the lowest low are connected, the goal is complete. Okay, which means this is a valid trend line, and these are valid trend lines. Like I said, if this wasn't the case, and if we did this with these two trend lines, and I still had major highs that had not yet been connected, then of course I would just simply add an additional trend line, and I would continue to add more and more trend lines until all of the major highs that come before that lowest low are connected, or alternatively in an uptrend before to make sure that all of the lows, the major lows that come before that highest high, are connected.